Hello to you, my dear friends. As always, I hope you are doing very well. This is Adam here at The Fallback, and today I wanted to share with you the story of my Yamaha Pacifica mod project and how it earned me a high-end sounding instrument on an independent musician's budget. First, I just wanted to take a brief digression and take the time to thank everyone for your support on the previous video, which was the digital music economy / value response to Mike from Become the Night. I had no real expectations in terms of how well it might do, but the views and comments and subscriptions that have all resulted from it have absolutely blown me away, far beyond anything I could have expected, especially for a channel of this size. So again, my sincerest of gratitude. It means the absolute world to me. And of course, we're going to get back into all that deep and complex stuff to do with the music industry and all that sort of thing. But for today, I wanted to talk about being thrifty with our gear. Because of course, another aspect of being an independent musician is that you need the means to produce your music, and we don't necessarily have the budgets of the big stars when it comes to instruments and amplifiers and recording gear and all that good stuff. And me being a guitar guy, I like to buy guitars and play guitars and talk about guitars, as well as modding guitars, which I sincerely believe is a fantastic approach if you've got the time and a little bit of know-how to get really high quality playing and sounding instruments without having to spend, thousands upon thousands of dollars. If you have the means to buy a high-end instrument, then of course that's a more than acceptable way to go, but I sincerely believe that going down the route of buying cheaper or secondhand guitars and then modding and upgrading them is a more than viable way to get quality instruments at a far cheaper rate, usually. And so we arrive at my Yamaha Pacifica, which I very unimaginatively refer to as Blue. I'm sure you'll be seeing some very gratuitous shots of it as we speak. If I had had the foresight, I of course would have done a more thorough chronicle of the process, but unfortunately I did not. I posted a few Instagram updates during the process, so I'll probably snag those photos to show you some of the steps that were involved, but of course I will just go and tell you about it all now. So as one afflicted with gear acquisition syndrome tends to be, I was perusing some secondhand gear sales online when I stumbled across this particular Pacifica. Typically such a model is more desirable for an entry-level guitar player, but it met two specific criteria for me. First, it was cheap, running in at about 250 Australian dollars, and second, it had a natural finish, which meant that refinishing it was going to be a fairly simple job. So after purchasing the instrument and getting it home, I of course stripped it all down. I gave it a fairly heavy sand because I think it was kind of clear coated from the factory, so I could give it a proper paint, and then refinished it in many coats of Daphne Blue Nitrous Cellulose paint. I wanted to try and give it a bit of an aged look as well, so I tried my best to artificially age the pickup covers and the pick guard, as well as lightly relicking the paint job itself once it was done. In terms of the sound and playability of the instrument, none of this is of particular relevance, but I wanted to take my time with the entire process, learn about some of the guitar manufacturing processes, as well as simply try and put my stamp on the instrument. So I got all the painting done, let it cure, and this is where all the important stuff comes in. In terms of its playability, the instrument was quite a joy right off the bat. The body is a relatively light piece of alder, if I'm remembering correctly, and the neck is maple with a very fine satin finish, so it's super fast and comfortable to play. But of course, to make this a studio quality instrument, there were a few key components that I needed to focus on. One of them being tuning stability, so right off the bat I had planned to replace the tuning keys, so I ordered a fresh set of Goto locking tuners to serve that purpose. And the initial plan was to replace all of the pickups as well. One of my favorite pickup manufacturers are Bare Knuckle out of the UK, and I've used them for a couple of projects in the past. But unfortunately, to order a full set of replacements from either Bare Knuckle or really any other major manufacturer of quality pickups, it was going to probably more than double the total cost of this project, so I wanted to try and keep things within a reasonable budget. I did end up ordering a Black Dog humbucker from Bare Knuckle to replace the bridge pickup, and well, for the single coils, I decided to undertake a little bit of an experiment. So originally the two single coils had an, I think, Alnico bar magnet each, and when I first got the guitar, well, they didn't sound too fantastic. So I did a little bit of research, and I found that in fact some guitarists and manufacturers have experimented with less than traditional magnet types on their pickups. So the choice I settled on was using neodymium. Now, a quick disclaimer here. I chose this relatively non-conventional route because at worst I figured I was damaging or destroying a set of pickups that were very cheap to begin with. I'm by no means advocating that you should start gutting your guitar and sticking neodymium magnets on your pickups yourself. But in this particular case, I decided to give it a go because the total amount of magnets I would need cost me, I think, $2 or $3. Changing them over was a relatively simple process because all it really involved was removing the existing single magnet and replacing that with 6 individual neodymium magnets for each of the poles on each of the pickups. I then simply secured the magnets down with a touch of glue and some tape, and they were good for reinstallation. So interestingly, a lot of the content I read to do with neodymium pickups seemed to suggest that they would end up being very shrill or excessively bright. But maybe because these are single coils, or maybe the pickups themselves were kind of dead to begin with, but I think these turned out sounding relatively pleasant sounding. To my ears, these single coils may have ended up having a little bit more bite than some other single coil pickups, but I still think they sound really, really good. Now, while I could reassemble some of the guitar, I wanted to leave it to a professional for the final rewiring, as well as replacing the cheap plastic nut. So of course I went off to the local luthiers to get all the final reassembly completed. So by my estimation, the cost of the guitar, the bare knuckle pickup, as well as all the other odds and ends involved with the mod project and the cost of the luthier's services ran me, I think, in the realm of 700 Australian dollars. So in terms of off-the-shelf guitars, I think that puts us in the realm of like some higher-end Squier or Epiphone models, or generally speaking, a lot of your sort of middle-of-the-road, I'm not a beginner anymore, let's get an upgrade sort of guitar. So in my humble opinion, I think the costs are most definitely worth it because I have something that is very comfortable to play, sounds equal if not better than a lot of off-the-shelf instruments for the same or similar kind of price ranges, and of course I have an instrument that is entirely unique to me. But of course I don't want you to just take my word for it, I am going to let you hear it. So I'll be running it through my high watt T40 tube amp into my torpedo captor and over to my audio interface from there. I'll try to work through all the different pickup selection positions on a few different tones so you can get a really good idea for how this thing actually sounds. So off we go! So there we have it, my friends. What do you reckon? I of course want to hear all your thoughts down below in the comments sections. How do you think it looks, but more importantly, how do you think it sounds? And as a result, do you think all the cost and effort involved with modifying a guitar so extensively is worth it in the end? But also, if you have taken on a mod project of your own, I want you to share that down below because, well, I am a big gear nerd and I like hearing about gear. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more just like it, make sure to hit that subscribe and that like button, and I hope to see you again in the next one. I'll catch you later.